There it is. Welcome to the show, live on StreamYard. We're here with Jason Scoop, but you can see he's in a car because you're in Nicaragua. Is that right?
Yes, I am in Nicaragua, a place I never expected to be in a million years when I woke up 2 days ago. But I was DM'd on Instagram. You know, that's the way a lot of businesses conducted these days, a DM, a private message on Instagram by a guy. I don't know if you've heard of, have you heard of a gentleman by the name of Steve Will Do It, which I believe is his birth name?
Steve Will Do It.
Yeah, Steve Will Do It. He's one of the Nelk guys. Yeah, they're huge. They're big with the Gen Z crowd.
Yeah.
He's actually friends with the Donald. Him and Trump are pretty close. Trump has gone on their podcast a few times. I think he had them on Air Force One back in 2020.
Holy cow!
And yeah, Steve Will Do It just purchased a home out here, and he's telling me he's running for mayor of this town in Nicaragua, and he wanted me to come as Trump to endorse him as a gag and just go on the streets of Nicaragua as he hands out cash to the poverty-stricken civilians.
Oh my gosh!
Of Nicaragua. So here
where is it in? Is it in Managua?
That's where I landed. That's where my plane landed. Hey Lloyd, what is the name of the town we're going to?
San Juan del Sur.
San Juan del Sur.
Oh, San Juan del. I thought the name was San Juan del, and he called you sir. But
no. San Juan del Sur.
And so this guy is what is he? Is he like a Silicon Valley like rich guy or something?
Well, he's definitely rich, but he's not Silicon Valley. He's just, I don't even know how to describe him. I think he started on YouTube in high school, just like chugging hot sauce and eggs.
Yeah, like a Mr. Beast.
Yes, like he's got a beer. Yeah, like a Mr. Beast. He has a beer. You guys have what is it? The Dad?
Oh, Happy Dad. Happy
Dad brand of beer. I mean, these guys are huge.
Yep. I've heard it. I've actually seen
these guys are like Eddie
Happy
Murphy
Dad.
in the 80s.
Yep.
For the young kids. Yeah, and I know I've done a little. I've watched.
Jason got pixelated for a second there. So just so some of you guys, as we're watching, we're going to show a little of Jason Scoop. We're going to show a video here.
Well, we're here with Roger. Great guy. We love him.
But
big, beautiful brain. And he's going to help me win big. Not that I need it, but I confide in him, right? Ooh, there we go. He got me. He got me so strongly. But we love Roger.
I got the check.
We love him so strongly. And we're going to win so big with Roger Stone. Look at that dance. We love Roger dance.
Let's make America great again.
That's right. 2024.
All right.
Yeah, we lost you a little bit there, and then I showed a video of you with Roger Stone. When did that Roger Stone video happen?
So I have 2 videos with Roger. One was at the Turning Point event down in Florida, and the other one was at the Turning Point event in Arizona. So I'm not sure which one you showed.
Yeah.
But the way I ended up at the first one was, so I'm a comedian, I'm an impersonator, I impersonate Trump. And Trump's first indictment actually sort of was a huge, I think it rejuvenated both of us. I think Trump was exploded in the polls after his first indictment. And then my online following exploded after going down to his first indictment, which led me to then go to the second indictment in Miami, which is where I bumped into the Valuetainment crew. And I did some jokes and stuff for their cameras. And then they called me a week later, come do the Valuetainment podcast. And then they got me tickets to accompany with them at Turning Point, where I met Roger Stone. So it's sort of like domino effect.
Wow. And so there's another video where I don't know where it is. It might be Turning Point. It might be some other political event. But you're horsing around, and then a woman comes up and she says, you can't be here. And then kind of as Trump, you say, oh, really? I'm not allowed to be here or whatever. Do you remember the video I'm talking about?
My own house, at my own house. Yes, that was at Mar-a-Lago. I was invited to Mar-a-Lago, and I actually got a video shaking Trump's hand because I'm known for doing the Trump, his he yanks the hand.
Yeah.
And then I finally got to shake Trump's hand. Although I did meet Trump back in November 2015. That's a whole nother story. That's the day he announced he was running for president. I thought he was running as a publicity stunt at the time. And I grew to very quickly to become a big fan of him and believe in him and vote for him. But the day he announced, I was like...
So you were drunk, right? This was before he announced.
Yeah, well, it was the day he announced. And I was just drinking with my comedian friends. And this idea just hit me. I'd never gotten a tattoo in my life. But this idea just fell out of the sky. And I look at my buddy Mike and I said, Mike, what if I got a Trump 2016 tattoo? And he goes, dude, if you get it, I'll pay for it. So then he calls my bluff. And, you know, how many ever shots later, we all end up on McDougal Street. 3 of my friends chipped in $50, $150. And I got Trump 2016.
Wow. And that was, how old were you then?
I was like 22, 23.
Yeah. And so then you went through the Trump presidency, and I'm wondering whether, you know, because there was a time I feel like the Trump supporters didn't like any imitator at all. Like if you were MAGA, you didn't even want to see anybody with the wig on. You didn't want to see any imitation. They thought it was somehow offensive to be, you know, doing Trump. Because I had a guy, John D. Domenico, who's a great Trump guy. He's been doing it for years. I used to have him on Red Eye, and the fans didn't like it, even though it wasn't anti-Trump. It was fun, you know.
Well,
so have you noticed people warming up to it now? Especially, I mean, Trump. Obviously, I thought Trump didn't like imitators, but he likes you, right?
Yes, he enjoyed what I did when I met him in 2015 at his book signing, when I showed him the tattoo and I did the imitation. Now, granted, he may have been flattered by the tattoo and then been extra buttered up and welcoming to the impression. But at that time, he said he's better than the pros. He is a pro. And then he seemed to be receptive when I shook his hand at Mar-a-Lago. And I actually met a guy who's very close with Trump. And he was like, yes, he's aware of you. He's like, Trump watches everything. Yeah. He watches everything, everyone. So he goes, he's very tuned in. But what I'll say to you is that.
This is what's happening. It's always at the edge of something. He says, what I'll say to you is that, boom, he's gone. This is the sketchy cell service in Nicaragua. That's funny. I got to keep that in. I'm going to cut out a lot of these gaps in here, but I'm going to keep that one in because I think it's funny. I'm watching Lassie Come Home on Turner Classic Movies. And it's really funny because it's so classic. It's got that wonderful, you know, almost Technicolor look to it. Maybe it is Technicolor for all I know, but I don't think it is. It's just got that wonderful, you know, late 40s, early 50s color to it. There you go. It was so funny the way you went out. You were like, I'm going to tell you this. Boom. And then it went out.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's the mountains of Nicaragua that's providing this shoddy service. But to continue with what I was saying is that I somehow found this sweet spot where people who love Trump love what I do. There was a time where people who even hated Trump enjoy what I do, but I think that's less and less because I've become a little bit more overtly political with it. Yeah. But what I can say is, and I try to stress this with everybody anytime I do a podcast, is that there are some Trump impersonators who are just overtly political, and they're not converting anybody to Trump. I'm a big Trump fan, and I have converted people to Trump. I have people on video, young people. Yes, young people. These 2 young Hispanic guys came up to me in Times Square. They were like, dude, we love you. They're like, we became Republican Trump supporters because of you. They were like, we were liberal Democrats. They were like, your videos on TikTok literally converted us to Trump. So what I will say is, what I'm doing is actually, I'm a comedian first and foremost. But I'm actually seem to be having some sort of effect.
That was oh, went away. So Lassie Come Home, they're shooting on location. You know, it's outdoor shooting with those Hollywood cameras, and the lighting changes. Obviously there'll be a scene that they're shooting and the sun is overhead, and then one shot later you can see there's long shadows on the ground because they just can't get all the shooting in with Lassie. So it's very inconsistent, but kind of enjoyable to watch at the same time. Yes.
I'm closer to civilization. Yes, we're closer to civilization now. We were really. A guy just went by on a horse and buggy. Yeah, a guy just in buggy just now, just to give you guys an idea of what we're dealing with here.
Hey, it's Tom. Okay, in my conversation with Jason Scoop, obviously we had technical difficulties, but if any of you listen or watch this podcast, I think that professionalism is kind of overrated. I like to just kind of throw things together. I could have canceled with Jason because he was in Nicaragua, but I thought, why not? Let's just try to do this on the phone when he's in the car. It'll be kind of fun. And so we had technical difficulties. He cut out several times, and I kind of clipped it out of the podcast. But then we decided we'll wait till he gets back to the house in Nicaragua and he has Wi-Fi, and then he can call me and we'll finish up. So that's what we did. And so this is the conclusion of my conversation with Jason. And the funny thing was, speaking of technical difficulties, when he did finally get back on, I created a new video, and I didn't get the front of the video. So the first, 90 seconds or 2 minutes or something of the video is Jason talking about how he got kicked off of his social media accounts. Like, I think he was talking initially about Instagram or TikTok. No, it was TikTok. So he got thrown off of TikTok because he mentioned LGBTQ issues, and he was just doing it in a joking fashion. It wasn't anything real, but just the idea that you if you mention any of those letters, you're subject to getting banned. So that's where we're going to pick up. So it'll make sense that he's talking about the letters there. Okay, here's the rest of the conversation with Jason Scoop.
Hey, avoid the letters. Avoid the letters. The LGBTQ. Just avoid the letters at all costs. Don't say anything about LGBTQ. And I slowly built my TikTok back up, but Instagram still wasn't going anywhere. Then the indictment happened, and that changed everything. And I didn't even realize. Yeah, I didn't even realize until a week later, because I was so used to Instagram not budging, just being a loser on Instagram, that it wasn't until a week later that I realized, wait a minute, 100,000 views, 3 million views. Oh my gosh. And my follow count is now 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. And it just hasn't really slowed down. Maybe it's slowed down a little bit, but then I came up with the elevator show. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen the elevator show.
I came up with uncomfortable questions on an elevator.
Mm-hmm. Is it just you, or do you do like Trump on the elevator, or what?
No, it's just me, and I'm not even on camera. You hear my voice on camera, but I film people. Trump or Biden? Who do you think would be better for the country? Abortion? Yes or no? We're on a crowded elevator in the middle of New York. Abortion? How do you feel? Kanye or Drake? Did Michael Jackson, was he innocent or guilty of those things they said he did? Migrants? Do we keep letting them in? The most hot button taboo to be spoken about in public. And I posted the first episode of that in early December. And by the end of December, I had an additional 100,000 followers just from the elevator series. The first episode I posted, Ben Shapiro shared it. PJ Landers did a thing on it. Fleckus Talks covered it on their YouTubes.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you had already, because of the indictment, you were getting tons of views on Instagram. So when you did the elevator thing, you were kind of in there.
Yes.
And you were getting, so things you could pick up on them. And did you say Patrick Bet David was, aware of you and kind of...
Yes. So the way he became aware of me is, so the first indictment, I exploded and I started making money, real money, for the first time in my life. And then I was literally at the Stress Factory Comedy Club in Jersey, dressed as Trump, getting ready to go on a live podcast as Trump. And I get the New York Times alert. Donald Trump has been indicted again in Miami. So in between getting that alert and going on stage, I literally had a minute to go on stage. I booked the flight and the hotel to go to the Miami indictment. I needed a camera person. All my people are in New York. I called up my very good friend Corey. He job at Walmart to come film me at that indictment. And at that indictment, the Valuetainment camera crew was there.
Yeah.
I ended up doing, Trump, Biden, even Obama, everybody. I was doing everybody. Clinton, oh my God, what are we going to do? We exchanged information. They called me a week later. They said, everybody at the office is dying, laughing. We love you. Can you come do Vincent Oshana's podcast as Trump? And I said, sure. So I went down there, had a great time, filmed a bunch of content. Patrick came in. I did Trump with Patrick. I said, Patrick Bet David, 3 names. I said, oh my goodness, I got scared. I thought he might assassinate, because typically when it comes to 3 names, whether it's John Wilkes Booth or Lee Harvey Oswald, I said, I don't want Patrick Bet David to kill me. But he's a great guy. And I gave him, he's a big guy. I gave him the yank and he loved it. And then Patrick was like, so Trump is going to be a turning point this Saturday. Are you going to be there? Because you might be able to get a video with him. And I said, no, Patrick, I wish, but I'm flying back to New York tomorrow. He's like, well, maybe hold off on that, because I think my team could get you in there. So they ended up getting me press passes. I canceled my flight. I extended my stay. I met a bunch of other people. And yeah, man, it's been an incredible ride. And now I'm in Costa Rica, all because of that Trump impression. Yeah.
What do you mean you're in Costa Rica? Aren't you in Nicaragua?
I'm sorry, Nicaragua. It's clearly been a stressful couple hours.
So yeah, you just keep hopping on planes, right? But you're kind of running down you can see the opportunity, so you're running down stuff. Now, when you said after the indictment, so for the first time you're making money, were you doing like revenue shared? Were you in that window when you remember when Instagram was sharing revenue from the reels? Did you get in on that?
I did. I make a little bit of money from the revenue. Maybe I think the most I made in 1 month, even the month where my video got 17, almost 18 million views now, close to 1 million likes. That first elevator episode, that was only $500. I make most of my money from Cameo, endorsing companies. I infamously signed up with Mango RX, the erectile dysfunction company. Make America hard again. And I actually went with them when they went live on NASDAQ. They wanted me to ring the bell as Trump, but the NASDAQ people had a heart attack. That the 2 women, we can't have anything political. Yeah. So they said, just take the wig off. But I still got to stand there with them and be at the NASDAQ. So that's one of the ways I earn money. And live performances, either doing stand-up or being hired as Trump. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing that the corporate, because I thought, years ago, the corporate world, they would have Trump and a Trump impersonator on, everybody would laugh. But then it became so hot that a lot of corporate people don't want that. Like you said, the corporate people shy away. But I think there's a lot of new media guys, obviously, with this, the erectile dysfunction thing. They're a little more run and gun kind of company, so they're less averse to controversy or the avoiding controversy, right?
Yeah, and I'm very blessed that they had the balls to do that, and also, it goes with the theme, not to be pitching anything right now, but they're like, Make America Hard Again is also like, bring back toughness and stuff. And they had the balls to hire a Trump guy. And, so I like the message that they bring. Make America Hard Again isn't just in a sexual way, but like, they have the Make America Hard Again hat. And, but yeah, so I really respect that as I'm not just in it for the money. I believe in what they're doing.
Yeah, and so you're doing things for them, but are they also kind of sponsoring other things, like sponsoring your videos or anything like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, they pay me to, basically go out there as Trump, interviewing people in Times Square. Do you want to make America hard again or soft again? But when I first started getting attention, I basically said yes to everybody. And I realized that was maybe not the best decision because it almost felt like prostituting myself. I did a chicken sandwich company as Trump in San Diego. I used car lot. I mean, you name it, I sold it. There was even, believe it or not, from TikTok, I have a huge following in Africa.
Really?
And apparently, yeah. And apparently in a lot of these African countries, they really like Trump. And this Kenyan man who's running for political office in Kenya named Timothy McUbe, he hired me to endorse him as Trump. So I had to do Timothy McUbe, and with that whole accent there. And there was another. This is how legit this is, because I couldn't even believe it myself. But there was a professional signed to a label musician, like rapper from Africa, who hired, I think his name was Zarkoti, who hired me to promote his show here in New York. So yeah, it's crazy the markets that you find through this social media, through I mean, it's bizarre, but I'm loving every second of it.
Yeah. But you've got so it's not as if you've got just the Trump thing going on, like with the elevator thing. If whatever happens in the fall, or if it gets harder to make a living doing the Trump stuff, you can just kind of pivot and do other stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm looking ahead. Last year, like I said, I never made. I've been broke my whole life. I finally started making money, so I leaned into Trump very, very heavy, and it paid off. But now this year, I'm a supporter of his. I'm hoping he wins. But even if he does win, okay, 4 years, I'm 32. Okay, at the whole rest of, Trump's not going to be around forever. Although somebody said, geez, like, no, Trump is literally forever. He's Michael Jackson. He's Elvis. He's forever. But yes, the elevator thing was a total godsend, because I just came up with it on the fly, and then that brought me a whole nother audience. And now I'm doing more and more live stand-up again, and I'm going to start posting more impressions, because I used to post a litany of it. I would do Trump, I would do Bill Burr, I would do Chris Rock, I would do all these people, I can't a black man go to the step. And, I would do him, and I would do everybody. And now I'm trying to, little by little, because you got to be smart, broadening what I do. Yeah.
And what was the other one? There was another political figure, though, I've seen you do. You had, it was on Newsmax. You did the George W. Bush. I think it was on Kelly's show, right?
That was Greg Kelly. That's a good guy. I tell you, George Bush is, you look at a guy, Jason Scoop. I was apparently the first impersonation he ever did in third grade, watching SNL. Daryl Hammond, he watched Daryl Hammond, and he'd come to school and be like, we're going to hunt down the evildoers. Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, that's the first impression I ever did.
And you mentioned Daryl Hammond. I mean, he was a guy that when I was starting doing stand-up, he was running around doing the clubs and everything like that. Then he got Saturday Night Live. He was always a technician. So you had guys like the guys who did impressions. Rob Magnotti was big. I don't know if you know his name, Rob Magnotti. There was a certain guy, like when we did stand-up, we'd run around to all the clubs, and there was usually one impressionist per show, because it was kind of a specialty act. So you'd have you were always kind of running into these different guys. Daryl Hammond was always like a technician. Like his impressions were so good, so technically excellent. But then you had guys like someone like Rob Magnotti was all personality. He was more of like a Dane Cook. He had a lot of energy on stage. And then you have guys like, now I'm drawing a blank on his name. Who's the guy who used to do John Madden?
You're talking about
he's so funny.
Oh my gosh, you're talking about from Mad TV.
Yeah. We'll think of his name. We're both drawing a blank on him.
Yeah. But he's
Caliendo.
Frank
Caliendo. I mean, he was one of the guys. To me, you had impressionists and you had comedians. Among the brotherhood, we all kind of stick together. But there was always a little prejudice against the the impressionists because they would like their act without the impressions was always suffering. You know, like they were dead on with the impressions. The crowd would go wild, but it was a very rare guy who could do stand up, who was a funny stand up, like who could crush it without the impressions. And then he throws the impressions in and he destroys the room, you know, without relying on the impressions. And Caliendo was the first guy I ever saw who would destroy. He'd get up and he would do 15 or 20 minutes without the impressions, and he'd be destroying. And then he would start the impressions. And so that was the guy I remember thinking, like, this guy is excellent. He's really got the whole package. He's not relying on it as a handicap at all. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm so glad you bring this up. And I don't want to say any names, but years ago when I first started, somebody said to me, the joke makes the impression. The impression doesn't make the joke.
Yeah.
And I hate, Tom, when I see somebody who's good at impressions and just shoves an impression into, okay, so I could do Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby ordering McDonald's. Can I have some extra pickles? No, in my act, I don't do I don't do an impersonation unless it's perfectly baked in seamlessly to a well-written, well-rounded joke, and not that it's just that's the magic. So I'm so glad that you brought that up because that's something that I believe that I'm a good comment. I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I don't rely on the impressions as the joke. There has to be a well-written joke.
Well, I would think also, just from a point of pride, it's your art form. So the art form of stand-up with impressions, you don't want to be seen as a juggling act. Or
correct.
There's nothing against jugglers. I'm friends with jugglers, but the idea of like you're not a mime or a juggler or a specialty act. You know, you're a stand-up comic, and so that is, you know, you don't want people to be like, "Wow, he's so talented. He's so talented." You know, you want them to just laugh, like that's what comedians do.
You crack me up because you did the. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but with jugglers, except instead of gays. That's hysterical. I'm friends. Some of my best friends juggle.
Yeah, no, listen, I love jugglers. And listen, I love mimes. I'm like, you know, I went to see Marcel Marceau in New York City at a theater because I love the European theater. I love all of that stuff. That's where Cirque du Soleil came out of, all that world of specialty performers. And I took a workshop with Mummenschanz. Do you know them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no.
the Swiss mime troupe. So I love all of that stuff. I love puppetry, all of that, you know. But we talk about technicians. So to me, the two kinds of impressionists are, you've got Daryl Hammond, who's a total technician. Then you have someone like Dana Carvey, who is so funny. Like, he's just a funny guy, and his impressions are not even that good.
He's a caricature guy.
Yes.
Dana is the quintessential caricature guy.
Yeah.
And I was blessed enough to be cast on his impersonation contest show, which I won.
Really?
Yes, I won $10,000 on Dana Carvey's first impressions. Yeah, and I beat Melissa Villaseñor, and then 2 months later, she was on SNL. So, who really won the long game? But I got to be around Dana, and Dana's incredible. But I'll add one thing to Daryl Hammond. He inspired me when I was little.
Yeah.
And yes, technically perfect, but Daryl brings a little bit of Daryl. Yeah. To it's almost like he's in on the joke.
Yeah.
It's like when he does, there's something about Daryl that is, to me, more magic than almost anyone else. I don't want to include or exclude myself, just in terms of people that I've seen.
Yeah.
There was something like magic about what he did, and I think it was bringing a tiny bit of himself to each impersonation that he did.
Yeah, and he was the guy that when I first saw him, he would come in and be working on an impression, and then he would leave. Then I opened for him at Caroline's one time and saw him headline, and he was one of those guys. Like, I didn't know. I knew Caliendo when I would see him work. Daryl Hammond had an incredible headlining act. You know, he could do an hour, and it would actually probably less than half of it was impressions.
There you go.
So yeah, he was great. So so you're getting the club dates, you're doing that. So you're kind of like you're making it all work. You're kind of throwing it all together, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And so you mentioned that you did the Dana. When was that Dana Carvey thing? When was that contest?
That was 2016, early 2016. Yeah.
And then did you ever audition for SNL?
I did a showcase for SNL that same year, that summer, August of 2016.
Yeah.
And I had been practicing my 5 minutes all around town, and everywhere I went, everybody would be like, Jason, look at this. This is it. You got it. Everywhere that I was practicing it, it was just explosive. Then it's the night of the showcase. It was at the Pit, the People's Improv Theater.
Yeah.
The audience, it was in front of a live audience. The audience was unaware that it was a showcase for Saturday Night Live. They were just told that it was a special show and it was free. And it was mostly college kids, you know, and this was just around the time people were getting really sensitive, especially college-aged kids.
Yeah.
And my first joke, I did this character. It's the only character I've ever done. I do impressions, but I don't really do characters. But the only character I've ever done is a guy, Abdul Shidad, and he was a former terrorist who gave it up. And he moved to the United States and became a motivational speaker to middle school students. And the second I did life is not about blowing up yourself. It's about blowing up your self-esteem. Everywhere I went, people were loving it. But these college age, super sensitive, purple haired kids, they looked at me like I was like in the Klan or something. And so it's, as you can imagine, started off not good. It's very difficult when the stakes are that high to find the mojo in you. The mojo in me died. And, but hey, look, I say to everybody, a lot of people say this. I remember I had an acting teacher who was like, the smiles on your faces or teaching you kids how to act is my Oscar. And I'm like, she's full of shit. So I feel like a lot of people, when they say things like this, they're full of shit. But I truly, from the bottom of my heart, hand to God, couldn't be happier with what I'm doing right now because I did it my way. To quote Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. I stuck with it forever, made no money for a decade, and then literally, I swear to you, if that indictment didn't happen, and I jokingly said before, but also serious, I think that indictment skyrocketed my career, but it also saved Trump.
Oh, it really did.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And, you know, I think my personal opinion is that they kind of worked that angle on purpose. I think they said they want Trump. They wanted him to win because they wanted to run against him. So they were like, I think Democrats really thought, let's indict him. We know it's going to inflame the base. And they were like, but this will be great because if we run against Trump, we'll definitely win. They were so cocky at that point. I don't think they would do that again. But that's what I think that a lot of people were saying, like, what are they, crazy? They're just going to make Trump more popular. But I think they did know. They knew the reaction, what it would be, but they were so cocky. They were like, well, this will be great because if we run against Trump, we beat him before, we're going to beat him again. Yes. But now I think they're second guessing that choice. Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with it. It's like they're stuck now.
Yeah.
You know, my mom would always say, you make your bed, you lie in it. Well, they made their bed, and now you look at every poll, even nationally, not just the swing states. And as somebody, I always say to people, I have a unique vantage point to see where people's minds are at, the general public on Trump, because I'm in the streets imitating him in Times Square, in Harlem, on the train, in Texas, in Miami, in Arizona. And something happened around last August. It was around the time of the mugshot. I think the mugshot was a definitive before and after point where I feel like the mugshot was the end of what started in 2015, which is Trump is literally Hitler. This is literally the Satan incarnate. This is the Klan. This is the KKK. This is Nazis. That ended last August. And I think here's the real catch, the real twist here. The more and more the black community supports Trump and the Hispanic community, the whole narrative that he's the racist boogeyman, it's shattered. They weren't counting on that. And yes, there are still plenty of black and Hispanic people who vote Democrat, but I feel like that narrative that he is, even in Hollywood, you see The Rock just came out, I'm not supported by, it's like everything changed. It used to be like a death sentence, even hinting that you didn't hate him. Even just saying, I don't support him, but I don't hate him. You'd Netflix would like drop you. Maybe not Netflix. Is that, what is it? So what the guy who runs Netflix, he's actually seemed more cool than a lot of the other owners of major media companies. But but there's a paradigm shift. I mean, do you sense that?
I do, and I think I just read an article. What the hell's the guy's name? But it was a lot about how people are. You know who was one of the early guys was that? Remember that guy James Denmore or something from Google, and he wrote that memo and he got fired. Do you remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was like 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody wrote an article that I just read this morning while I was having my coffee, and it was about that guy from Google that he got fired. If you go back and read he wrote this very respectful thing saying that, it was about DEI and it was about how he was, forced to address, things in a certain way and pretend that everybody likes, STEM equally, and that there aren't more men interested in STEM than women, and he was like, and none of that's true, and I know it's not true, but why is it that when I write it down, I think this might get me fired? And then of course he did get fired by Google, and people were like, well, he shouldn't have written that memo. But the thing is, people every day of the week are saying that kind of stuff all over Twitter, all over everything. Like, that guy got fired for something that people say every day of the week. I say it when I go on Fox News on panels. I say that kind of stuff all the time.
He said it in the wrong.
Guy got fired for it.
He said it to the wrong crowd, I guess.
Yeah, and at the wrong time. I think nowadays there are people. I mean, there were people saying, there's people screaming, whatever the issue is about the pronouns or whatever. I remember when Jordan Peterson said, I'm not going to say your pronoun, and then people went crazy and he got fired, and then he became a national celebrity. Yeah. All Jordan Peterson did was give a speech saying, I'm not going to do the pronoun thing. And now he's one of the biggest speakers in the country.
100%. He's on tour. I walked past Carnegie Hall the other day, and there was a sign, Jordan Peterson's appearing here next month. I'm like, well, there he is. But I'm curious where the man who wrote that letter about Google or letter to Google is now.
Yeah, I don't know, because he was mentioned in the article. So we'll have to look him up and see. But this guy who wrote this article, he's like a venture capital guy, starting businesses. He's essentially a tech bro. Mm-hmm. And he wrote this manifesto. I'll send it to you. Yeah, he wrote it, and Tucker read it, and he had him on his show. He was on Tucker Carlson's show. So this is the kind of thing that goes around now. All you got to do is write one thing. This guy has no followers. He doesn't have any Instagram followers. He doesn't have anything. He just wrote something and put it on Substack, and people were passing it around to each other so much. Somebody gave it to Tucker, and Tucker was like, I'm going to have this guy on my show. So this is the kind of thing that's happening every day of the week. And the other thing is that before it was like you said, you see people all the time. When you do Trump, people come up to you and probably talk to you like as if you're Trump, but
for the good or for the worse.
Yeah. Back in 2016, cab drivers and construction workers and, like blue collar type of guys and Hispanics too, were saying to me, I think I'm going to give this guy a shot. Donald Trump, he's interesting. I'm going to give him a shot, or they'd say like Trump, obviously the guy's a little nuts, but I just might vote for him. No one's saying that now. When I talk to the blue collar guys now, they don't even talk about Trump. They know him. Like they know they're not afraid of him. They don't think he's weird. He was the president for 4 years. What they're saying to me is how much they hate Biden. So to me, that's what they got to worry about. Is like Trump's a foregone conclusion. They're like, he's been there. I know he's not Hitler. Everybody knows he's not Hitler, except like those loonies who keep screaming about it. So they don't even have to give him a shot anymore. Like they gave him a shot. Now they're just like, I think Biden is completely decrepit. Like they can't even believe it. So that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
They're not as obsessed with him anymore. I think like that's why, with the indictments and then the occasional speech or whatever, I think Trump, he knows now he should probably stay. He's not even out there that much. He probably should just stay as quiet as possible.
Well, yes, he's off Twitter. Yeah. He's on Truth Social. And, the guy is, anyone who's ever met him, he loves to win. He loves to win. He loves to win. Well, he already has that drive. Now add, if I don't win, they'll throw me in prison. I mean, that's unstoppable. And then also, Scott Adams, I know he had his controversy, but Scott Adams, who I listen to every single day, he goes, in 2015, 2016, Trump needed to say crazy shit in order to get coverage. He needed to say the John McCain, because that got him all the free press. Now, he was president for 4 years. Like you said, people know what he's capable of. All he has to do is stick to the script. He's almost like your alcoholic friend who went and got help and now he's back. And he's doing better, but it's like, just call Rosie fat one last time. Come on. But no, Trump is incredibly disciplined this time around. I study him. Obviously, I study him. He's hammering home the message. It's election interference. It's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. We'll drill. We'll bring back this. We'll do this. We'll do this. Biden is doing that. Biden. Every time he walks out of the courthouse, kind of subdued almost. We did a perfect deal. All the banks made their money. The judge his daughter is tweeting, I want to see Trump locked up. He's sticking to the message. And I don't think people realize how much discipline that takes. Like the guy works so freaking hard and he's getting that every camera on him the second he walks out of the courthouse. And he says, I paid back the banks. Nobody was defrauded. These people are sick. And I think even people who don't really follow politics, they're just at their job, seeing him on the TV. They're like looking at the other guy like, he's right. He's right. Because he's saying it, he has a more sober sticking to the script. But,
Well, yeah, you do that too when you do the impression, because people get to see you kind of work it because you're improvising. It's not a comedy sketch that you come out and deliver.
Yeah.
So you're in the street, or you're the video where you called Papa John's and ordered a pizza as Trump, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you can see you're working on it. So, for instance, with the thing that made me laugh with the Roger Stone is like you shook his hand and then he shook you kind of strong back, right?
Yeah.
And then you said, but he's Roger Stone, and you said something like, he's doing great. He's doing great work. He's doing it very strongly. Like the way that Trump would say that, like he's doing it very strongly. Like
yes, he's like, and he's gonna help me get elected. Not that I need it. But he's so great. Yeah, Trump has also changed over time. Like when you impersonate somebody and you watch them so closely, he has changed over time. And when I was on Greg Kelly, I was mentioning how there's interview Trump. And then it's funny because he went on to interview Trump a week later. And I said, interview Trump one-on-one, intense eye contact. Tom, we need to take back our country. we need to get serious. We're not going to have a country, Tom. well, we're not going to have a country. Then there's speech Trump, where he's kind of pivoting this way and pivoting that way. And then there's teleprompter Trump versus real Trump. So we all bleed the same blood of patriots. Together as one, we will overcome with diversity and goodness. So anyways, Hillary, what a disgusting animal, right? What a disgusting animal.
That's the funniest thing when he's doing teleprompter Trump and he's trying to stay on message because they've told him, like, just do the speech, but you can see his asides, it's so funny.
And then the third and final Trump is the TikTok video when he's golfing and a little more smiley. And that's, you know what, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Just zoom off on the golf cart. So there's casual, laid back, jokey Trump where he's smiling. Interview where there's no smiles. It's just our country is dying. And then it's yeah.
Do you think sometimes when my wife watches Impressionists, she thinks they're a little crazy. Like, she thinks that in order to be an impressionist, you have to be a bit of a lunatic. Like there's something wrong with you. There's something chip in your brain. Like, you're always like, maybe you're looking at people too hard, and it is true that impressionists are, I think, are like, they're almost like on the spectrum a little bit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not normal. I know I'm not normal.
But why is it? It's like you like to. I mean, the reason you're good at impressions is because you stare at things and this is why artists can recreate a palette because they look really. A lot of times when you go to art school, your professor, they always say it's about seeing. You have to see it first, and then you take and you put it's 90% seeing. You got to look at the. Whereas if you're starting to do art, you just stare at the canvas and you just try to make it look good. But it's no, just look at the landscape. And if you keep looking at it, you'll know what to do. And I think that's what impressionists, you have to work on the voice and everything like that. But I think a lot of it is observation, right? You have to really look at what you're trying to do, right?
It's a lot of paying attention. But I always say, when people are like, how do you get the voice? I always say, I capture the essence. In my head, I picture the person's essence. And if I could channel that, the voice many times just comes.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not as important. It's like we're talking about Dana Carvey. You talk about the essence. When he did that George H.W. Bush, it was so funny. And then people, they went crazy and they're like, oh, it's dead on. But like, it wasn't dead on. It was a crazy version, but it was something about it that rung true. And then he could make it funny because it's not as important that you're technically right if you're not funny. So if he found a funny way to do it, then he could always be funny doing it.
Precisely. What you just said right there made me realize it's almost like a form of hypnosis. Yeah. In a way.
And, hey, because Scott Adams, he's a hypnotist.
Yes, because like you said, everybody said that's perfect. But you keenly noted, no, it wasn't perfect. It's like when in 2015, 2016, when he first came down the escalator and I first started doing Trump, everybody was like, this is amazing. This is perfect. This is so good. I'll look back at my impression from 15 and 16. I'm like, this is literally horrible. But I captured something. I had the seeds. I had the beginnings to it. And it takes time and practice. And I say to everybody, the more you do something, the better you get. Anything. If you just do it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I still find myself perfecting it. I still find myself tweaking the voice to be a little bit more. And it's fun. It's
you know what? And that's what comics do. What they're doing essentially is like Jeff Foxworthy, when he started doing his act, he's running around to the clubs and then he comes upon you're a redneck. And then he kind of turns up the redneck accent a little bit, and then eventually Foxworthy starts doing an impression of himself,
Yeah.
and that's when you get bigger and bigger. Like Rodney Dangerfield was doing Rodney, and then like he created the character himself, but then he does the same thing to himself as you do with Trump. It's like find what's funny, exaggerate it, and then and from there, it is someone like Dangerfield or Jack Benny, whatever. It didn't matter after a while. It didn't matter what they did. The audience was so familiar with them and their character that they could do no wrong. Gaffigan's like that. I mean, Gaffigan, he comes out and he hits, and it's the voice, it's the way they know how he delivers a joke. So they're laughing from the second he gets on stage,
Mm-hmm. You see with Seinfeld,
Yeah.
He could be
It's
saying anything I don't understand. What's the deal? he's got him. He's got him.
And he does that. And it's almost like Seinfeld almost jokingly is doing like some bizarre version of his imitators at this point. And you can see, how Jerry, he could never hold a straight face. Like he's always like, even on his show, like he was always kind of laughing while he was doing it. And now when he does himself, he's almost saying to the audience, like, yeah, I know, I'm Jerry Seinfeld. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's a guy who's very aware of himself.
Yeah. And I love Jerry. And I'll tell you this about him, that when he was doing his after the show ended, I guess it was late 90s, and he was running around working on his new act because he wanted to shoot another special. He's running around to the New York clubs, and I was emceeing, and Jerry would come in a lot, and I would bring him on stage. And I brought him on stage one time. He comes in and you're like, all right, here it goes. Jerry's here. So you wait till the next guy's off and you tell the guy, Jerry's here. You're obviously bumped, right? And then you bring Jerry up on stage. And then, so the one time I did it, the second time he came to the club, it was almost like a year later, but Jerry comes walking in, and then I go out to the lobby and he's like, hey, Tom, how you doing? Whatever. Like he remembered my name, because Jerry has such a respect for comics.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have this sense of like, I'm the celebrity and Tom is like an unknown comic. Like to him, he treats you like a peer. He treated me like a peer. And I thought that was so cool,
Yeah, man, he's a class act. You don't become a billionaire like that being a piece of shit.
Exactly.
People don't get that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously some people did, right? But it's more likely when someone is, it's like more likely like what you see is what you get. Like people, I'm with Gutfeld all the time, and people say, hey, what's Gutfeld like? I'm like, what are you kidding me? He's exactly what you think. Yeah. Like you can't fake that. He's on TV every single day. He's as funny and as prickly and as, he's it's no surprise, right?
A genuineness that comes across. I'll rephrase what I just said. You don't have longevity success as a performer if you're a total asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in some other industry, maybe you could become a billionaire in whatever, but to be in the public eye like that, I do find that the people who make it to the top and stay on the top, they really are likable, nice people.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're, what time is it there?
It's 4:55 here.
Okay. So you're a couple of hours behind us, and then you're going to get a good night's sleep, and then you're going to start work tomorrow. Is that it?
No, I think we're going out now. We're going to do a live stream tonight because Steve, he promotes this online gambling company. So we're doing a live stream for them. And I think they went out to the bar. I'm going to have his driver. He's got a driver. He's like, oh, my driver will take you. I'm going to meet them at the bar. I'm going to get Justice Trump first, meet them at the bar. And I think they want to shoot some stuff down there with the village people here in Nicaragua. And then we're going to do a stream tonight. And then I think we might do some more shooting tomorrow. And then I looked up the travel thing, and it said you have to prove that you have a ticket back. So I panicked, and I wasn't sure how much time we were going to spend here, but I got a ticket back tomorrow. But now he's saying he might get a private jet for us. So luckily, yeah. So
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And I'm thankful and happy. I'm so thankful for every second of it, and I'm enjoying every second of it. Yeah. And then I think so I'm going to accompany them to Miami for a couple days. Not sure what we're doing there. And then the final stop is Vegas for UFC's The Slap Show, and I'm going to be floor seats with Steve as Trump.
Oh my God. And it's one of those things where they slap in the face?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stand that. It's so
Yeah.
I can't watch it.
Yeah, it's terrible. My friend knows a guy who's doing this on a small scale. Like, people buy tickets, out in Pennsylvania somewhere. And I'm like, he told me, he's like, the first prize winner is $2,000. I'm like, dude, that's not worth $2,000.
Not at all. Oh my God. Well, that's going to be great. So you're I can see this is going to be interesting. So you'll be there as Trump, and I'm sure he'll have thoughts about it. But anyway, I'll let you get back to your big gig there in Nicaragua. They have to say it. If you go to Nicaragua, you have to say Nicaragua, right?
Nicaragua, yeah.
So have a great time. Hopefully you'll get extended and you won't need that ticket back. And I hope you fly the private jet and it leads to other things. But it'd be great to see you when you're back in New York or whatever. I usually say this. If I'm doing spots, I'll go to the stand. Okay. But it'd be great to run into you, do a show together or something.
Absolutely.
That's great. All right, man. Have a good one.
You
God
too.
bless. We'll see you later.
God bless. See you later.